I offer my pranams to all the Bhagavatas and welcome you all to this second session on the introduction to Vishistadvaita. We had a brief discussion last time, so we will continue from there. Before that, we will chant the Shanti Mantra. Om Apyasmat Guru Paramparaye Namaha. Om Apyayantu Mamangani. Vak Pranaschakshushrotramatho Balam Indriyani Cha Sarvani. Sarvam Brahmopanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot. Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam Mehastu. Tadatmani Nirate Yaupanishatsu Dharmaha. Te Mayi Santu Te Mayi Santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the first session last week, we briefly went through the qualifications of an aspirant, the expectations from the participants to have an open mind when we are going through trying to understand the basic tenets of this Vishishtadvaitic system of Vedanta as established by our acharyas and overall firmly established by Sri Ramanujacharya and expanded by further justified and by other acharyas later on. So in that, the qualifications of an aspirant itself is a huge topic discussed in various source texts and then as established by our acharyas. We went through very briefly because this is basically an introductory course, as I told you. Very briefly, we went through that. And basically, a couple of things as told in the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. The Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna starts with teaching the knowledge of discrimination, discriminatory knowledge between the self and the body, the inert matter and the conscious self. That difference one has to know, the first thing, and develop dispassion in worldly things because everything here ends up in grief only. Dukkhamula, Dukkhamishra, Dukkodaka, Asthira, Alpa. It's very meager. It's not steady, stable. It is not permanent. So looking at all these defects, one can develop dispassion. And then he has to inculcate certain virtues, the Atma Gunas, Amanitvam, Adambhitvam, and things like that. So all these are some of the things that are required for an aspirant to inculcate in that order. So a couple of things here and there, I just picked up a few things and then we discussed about that. And then we went on to have a look at sources of knowledge for us to understand. The Shruti says one has to do Shravana first. First, one has to study the Veda Vakyas, the Upanishads, study them, listen to them through an Acharya. And then this has to be done only through approaching an Acharya. One cannot study by oneself. That is also a very important requirement for an aspirant. A spiritual aspirant has to necessarily resort to an Acharya. And so that is a very important thing. He has to listen to the teachings of the Vedas through an Acharya and then reflect on the meanings to firm up in the mind that what is taught is correct, using the right logic for that, whatever one has heard. That is called manana, mantavyaha, Shruti says. And then one has to contemplate upon the meanings of the vakyas that are taught. That is called nididhyasana. There is a Shruti ordains that one has to first do Shravana and Manana and Nididhyasana, and then one can get Sakshatkara of the realize the truth. One can realize the truth after that. So that is what we saw last time briefly. And then for that we have to know what are the sources of the knowledge for doing the Shravana. Shravana itself is a very, very difficult thing for one. In the Kathopanishad, Yamadharmaraya tells Nachiketas, Shravanaya api bhuviryo nalabhyaha. It's very difficult to get an opportunity to listen to the highest truths taught by the Upanishads. That itself is a great opportunity, great fortune for one. So the sources of knowledge have to be known, from where we have to learn this. The topmost is the Veda, which is the main source of knowledge for all the Vedanta systems. And in order to understand the Veda, we need the support of the accessories called angas. And in order to establish the truths that we have learned in a proper, reasonable way, we need the Nyaya Shastra. And we have to also inquire into the truths. Simply don't accept what is told or what is taught. You have to inquire into it. Why it should be like that? Why it cannot be like that? Can it not be meaning this, like this? Can the meaning not be not taken like this? What are the objections to this? Inquire into that. So Mimamsa Shastra does that. And then the expansion, the expanded meanings of the Vedic truths can be found in Smritis, Itihasas, Puranas, and all that. There you can also see the actual practice of the teachings of the Upanishads through various stories. The various characters appear in these Itihasas and Puranas, how they actually practice the truths taught in the Upanishads. We can actually see that. We can understand from that. Upanishads may not tell everything. The Upanishad itself means it is very secret knowledge, rahasya. So it is not easy to understand. But when we study the Itihasa, Purana and all that, we can see how rishis have practiced the truths taught in the Upanishads. And among them, there is prime place given to the Bhagavad Gita, which is like a practical guide to everyone, taught by none other than Bhagavan Krishna. So that we are going to see in this session, we are going to just get a brief idea about the nature of the Veda. What does Veda mean? What is it? What does it contain? What are the accessories to Veda? What are these accessories containing? How they are useful to understand the Vedas? Nyaya Shastra, Mimamsa Shastra, and all these things, we get a brief glimpse into that in this session. We are going to look at it. And then what is Vedanta? What is Darshana? The meaning of these words. And we hear Astika, Nastika, Darshanas and all that. So we will go in this way, and this introduction itself may take this session and maybe one more session. And after that only we are going to actually enter into Vishistadvaita per se. So this is more like a general introduction into study of the Vedantas, what one has to study. So today I may also be using a little more some of the technical terms and aspects which are specific to some of the Shastras and all that, and some more of Sanskrit words we are going to hear today. The idea of this session is also to generate an interest in the listeners and the seekers to go and study the source works of our acharyas directly, for which an idea about a brief introduction into and a familiarity with the Sanskrit terms that are used in the works are also, that is also a very important aspect. So some of these we will have a little more. You may find it a little bit, some of you may find it a little bit difficult to understand. It's okay. We will learn as we go forward. We will understand them in a little more detail. And if there are any doubts, anything, we can always discuss and expand on some of them as we go forward also. So with that brief intro, I will start. So we also have to go and see into more detail. We had a brief intro into these Artha Panchakas and the six darshanas that are very popular in the Indian tradition, which are available with us, and what are the valid means to get the right knowledge, the pramanas, and all that. These are all part of the general introduction. Then we will go into Vishistadvaitic system where we specifically look at these things. So this we saw last time, the major Hindu scriptures which are the sources of knowledge, the Vedas, Upanishads, the Vedangas. The Anga means accessory. So Anga also means part. It can be part of a whole or it can be an accessory which will help to understand the main thing. So it need not be very much attached to the, like our hands and legs are attached to the body. We say they're all parts of the body. It may not be like that. When we come to study the Vedas, the Angas are separate works which are not very much part of the Veda, but which help us to understand the Veda. So they are accessories, Angas, Itihasa, Purana, and all that. And then the darshanas, the six darshanas that are popular. So we will look at briefly all these things. We will see how much we can actually cover in this session. We will continue the introduction, maybe in one more session. So the Vedas, as we saw last time, are impersonal as per the traditional view. This is accepted by all the three celebrated masters of Vedanta, Sri Shankaracharya, Sri Ramanujacharya, and Sri Madhvacharya. All of them accept that they are Nitya and Apaurushaya. And the modern philosophers give a date to that. And the Vedic mantras, as we saw, are very difficult to comprehend. And we need the accessories and the support of the Itihasa, Puranas, and all this, which are called Upa-Brahmanas. Brahmana means expansion, making it big. Upa-Brahmana means expanding the meanings of the Vedas so that we understand in more detail, clearly, with more clarity, what is taught in the Upanishads. And this knowledge, unfortunately, was lost over a period of time, and hence there was a need for commentaries and all that. And the commentaries also were very cryptic, like aphorisms. If you see most of the works in the Indian tradition are all using aphorisms called sutras. In that form only they wrote very short cryptic aphorisms, one word, two words, or three words like that. These aphorisms follow a particular structure as defined in the Nyaya Shastra called Anumana. So there is as you see in the Western logic and all that, there are three terms, major term, middle term, minor term, and all that, like that. Paksha, Sadhya, Hetu. Using all these, they establish meanings. We will look at what is a sutra and all that little later. So Jaimini and Badarayana have done great contribution in this aspect, explaining the meaning of the Vedas and giving clarification and eliminating apparent contradictions. I say apparent contradictions because there is no real contradiction in the Vedas. Vedas are valid, completely self-valid. That is established by Jaimini in very, very detailed way. They are self-valid, complete Vedas. So there is no contradiction there. But it appears as though there are contradictions. So how to resolve them? Is there a method at all in the Vedas? Is there a system defined in the Vedas, in the Upanishads? These are all identified by our acharyas. So in that, the major contribution is by Jaimini and Badarayana. Jaimini wrote a commentary in the form of sutras for the earlier part of the Veda, and the latter part, which is Upanishad. Everything put together is one only. Veda is one. But there is a sub distinction there, depending on the nature of the truths taught there. The first part teaches more about the sacrifices, yajna, yaga, and all those things, karmas. It's called karma kanda. Second part is about the Atman, the self, the means, and the goal, and all that. So that is Upanishad. These are found even in the earlier part of the Vedas, but still the Upanishads are completely dedicated to teaching the nature of the Atman, the nature of the means, the goal, etc. Some of the Western philosophers thought that there is no system at all, there is no single system in the Upanishads, but that is not true. Our great acharyas have shown that there is a system taught in the Upanishads, and it is a very structured way. It does teach Tattva, Hita, Purushartha. What is the reality? What is the means to attain the reality? And what is the goal? How to attain that? The means, reality, the means, the way, the path, and the goal. It is well defined in the Upanishads. They showed us. And that was shown through sutras, which are very, very difficult for us to understand. It has only one word, some of the sutras. Some of them will have two words, some of them three words. The stream of words. So Jaimini and Badarayana wrote works like that. They didn't write complete commentaries. But after that, our acharyas have written detailed commentaries. The earliest commentary on the Brahma Sutras is available by Shankaracharya's commentary. And then others there, Bhaskaracharya was there, and then Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya, Yadav Prakasha, all these people have written commentaries. And for the Veda itself, complete commentaries were also written by Skanda Swami, Madhava Bhatta, and others. Vedic mantras directly they have commented upon. In that, Saranacharya and Bhattavaskara commentary are very popular even today for the Vedic mantras. So the Veda itself, as I said, it's a one unit. It is notionally divided into two parts, the Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. The knowledge of the realities. Even in the Karma Kanda, realities are taught. The famous Purusha Sukta appears in the Karma Kanda part of the Veda only, in the Aranyaka, Yajuraranyaka. It appears in all the Vedas, in fact. And there are many ways of dividing these Vedas also. Samhita is said to be the mantra part of it. And all the remaining things are supposed to be Brahmana. Mantra Brahmanayoho Vedanamadeyam is told. That is mantra and Brahmanas. Within Brahmana, there is a subdivision, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishads. All three put together are said to be only Brahmana. That is also one division like that. So these are all notional divisions in the Veda. Jaimini wrote the commentary in the form of sutras for the Samhita, Brahmana, and Aranyaka part, primarily from the Samhita and Brahmanas. And then Badarayana authored for the Upanishads, he wrote sutras. And the ritualistic part, that is the Samhita and Brahmana and all what they teach, it's very, very difficult to understand. So Jaimini had to write close to 4,000 sutras for that. Badarayana wrote hardly 550 to 600, around that. That's all. Within those many sutras, he was able to establish a system of philosophy as taught in the Upanishads. So the Vedas are only one initially. And each Veda has got certain Upanishads attached to them. The Rig Veda, for example, has Aitareya Upanishad and Kaushitaki Upanishad. These two Upanishads are part of the Rig Veda. Chandogya and Kena Upanishad are part of the Samaveda. Kathopanishad, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Taittiriya Mahanarayana Upanishad, Maitrayaniya, Taittiriya and Mahanarayana. These are part of the Krishna Yajurveda. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is a very huge Upanishad, Ishavasya, they are part of the Shukla Yajurveda. Mundaka Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, and Prashna Upanishad are part of the Atharveda Veda. So these Vedas, Atharva, Rigveda, Samaveda, Yajurveda, Atharva Veda, they were all together as one unit initially. But people were finding as time passed, difficult to master everything. So Krishna Dvaipayana, Vyasa, divided them into four based on the nature of the mantras. So each one has, Rigveda has the mantras which are useful to invite devatas for yajnas and all that. There are mantras all like that. And then the Samaveda is used for singing, Gayana, Udgatra Veda it is called. Krishna Yajurveda is about the performance of the yaga itself, Prayoga. That is found in the Krishna Yajurvedas. And then Atharva Veda has several other aspects not found in these, and also has certain other sacrifices and all those things. So there are, this way he picked out the mantras from the Vedas and then divided them into four, Vyasa, and made it into four. He took four students and then asked them to learn this. He taught them this and then go and propagate the Vedas. And they started propagating, and then further it then developed into multiple branches and all those things. So, and now there are, considering all these, there are 14 called Vidyasthanas and Dharmasthanas also, they are told, for Dharma. Vedo kilo dharma moolam, Jaimini says, everything is about Dharma only. Vidyasthanas, they are called. These are the sources, 14 sources primarily required for us to learn in order to realize the truths. Earlier masters used to study all of them, but over a period of time we have lost the capability to study all of them. And then we have diversified into various other things, and our interests have changed over a period of time. But there was a time when people used to dedicate their entire life to study these 14 Vidyasthanas and master them. They are Angani Vedaha, Chatvaraha, Mimamsa, Nyaya Vistaraha, Puranam, Dharmashastrancha, Vidyakhetaha, Chaturdasha. Chaturdasha means 14. Angani Vedaha, Chatvaraha. Four Vedas, Chatvaraha Vedaha. And then Angani, their accessories, which are 6 in number. Mimamsa is one Shastra. Nyaya Vistara, Nyaya Shastra. And then Puranam. Purana includes all the Itihasas and all those things, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Vishnu Purana, Bhagavata, whatever it is, Ashtadasa Puranas. Dharma Shastra, which includes Manu Dharma Shastra, Manusmriti, and all those things. They are all coming under Manu. They are all Dharma Shastras. And then these 14, 6 accessories and 4 Vedas, 10, Mimamsa 1, 11, Nyaya Shastra 12, Purana 13, Dharma Shastra 14. These are called the 14 Vidyasthanas. These are the 14 major sources for our acharyas to establish their systems. One was supposed to study all of them initially, earlier times, and they have studied. Our masters have studied all of them. And in that, the 6 accessories of Vedas are Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha, Niruktam, Jyotisham, Tatha. Kalpascheti, Shadangani, Vedasyahu, Manishinaha. Shiksha is one accessory. It it states the rules of pronunciation of the Vedas and all that. It is to do with that. Vyakarana is the grammar for the Vedic mantras and Vedic words and all that. Chandas is prosody, meters. And then Nirukta is etymology, how the words are derived, the meanings of the words, how to understand the Vedic words. It tells. Jyotisha is astronomy. Kalpa is about the rituals, how to perform and all that. So these are all the six accessories without the help of which, we cannot understand the Vedas. Somebody is trying to write on the screens. Please don't do that. And the Vedas are basically infinite. So Veda itself says, Anantavai Vedaha, Anantavai Vedaha. There is no end to the Vedas. But just now we saw that there are four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. How can we say they are infinite? Means through their branches. Various branches have developed over a period of time. Samaveda is supposed to be having 1,000 branches. Sahasravartma, Sama, it is told. But they are all not available to us today. So through their branches, they are infinite. They are developed over a period of time. The Vedas are being taught from in the Guru Shishya Parampara, from the master to the student. Again, he teaches to his student, then student. Forever it has been coming like that, passed on from our acharyas. And the meaning of the word Veda itself, it has got several meanings based on the root, Vida, Jnane. It gives us the knowledge, Vidalra, Labhe, benefit, attainment, in that meaning. So one can attain various benefits through the Vedas, Veda mantras. Vida Vicharane, for inquiry. Vida Sattayam, existence. These are all various meanings possible for the Vedas. Veda itself gives the etymology of these, and in various contexts in the Veda mantras we can find these things. And the definition of Veda, what is Veda, if somebody asks? Various definitions have been given. One of them is Mantra Brahmanayoho Veda Namadheyam. Apastamba says Mantra and Brahmana together are called Vedas, he says. What is mantra? What is there in the Samhita part of the Veda is called mantra. All the remaining things are called Brahmanas. They explain the process of performance and all that. Told in the mantras are used during performance of the ritual. The Brahmanas explain the meanings of the mantras and how to actually perform them and all that. And another definition given is Ishtaprapti Anishtaparihareyoho Alaukikam Upayam Yaha Grantaha Vedayati Saha Vedaha. So this is a commentator, Madhavacharya, Sarana Madhava, it's called. He has commented on the Vedas. He gives this definition. For attaining the benefits, for getting rid of whatever is the difficulties and all those things, whatever work, the work which teaches us extraordinary means we get extraordinary benefits by performance of various Vedic rituals and all that. So this work tells us about extraordinary means, not the normal ones which we do here. To attain our designs and get rid of difficulties, etc. That work is Veda, it says. So Veda has got this. This is the content of the Veda, is one way we can say. So their explanations, various explanations are given like that. And initially it was one unit, Veda Vyasa divided into four, and then they expanded into innumerable shakhas. That way Veda is infinite. And Dayananda Saraswati also gives another explanation. Vidanti, Jananti, based on the four meanings of the root. Each there are roots in Sanskrit have got several meanings. So based on that, he has given an explanation. Vindate, vindante, labhante, they benefit, various benefits can be obtained. Vicharayanti, sarve manushyaha. They also do inquiry through the Veda and all those things. And they also become vidvansas. That is, they become knowledgeable people because Veda gives that kind of a knowledge. These are all some of the explanations of what is Veda. And if you look at the nature of the Veda, the Swarupa of Veda, it is a heap of letters. It's a heap of letters. Akshara Rashihi. So Vedadhyayana, Ramanuja says, Acharya Ucharana Anucharana Purvaka Akshara Vedakya Akshara Rashi Grahanam. That is, learning the heap of letters by rote, by repeating what our acharyas teach us. So acharyas will teach a word and then we repeat it. Like that, we keep repeating it. That is how it has come from generations. And these letters are found in the form of words and sentences. This is a very wonderful aspect of the Vedas. Normally, if you want to form a sentence, there has to be an intelligent person to configure, use the words and prepare, make a sentence out of it, which is meaningful. It has to be meaningful. The sentences are meaningful in Veda. Teach us about things that are supersensory, but they are present forever like that, eternally. Though it is not created by anybody, it is present like that only, the form of sentences. So these are all some of the aspects which are discussed while establishing the impersonality of the Vedas. How can you say it is Apaurushaya? How can sentences be formed by themselves, and that too meaningful sentences? If there are meaningless, then it is okay. Somebody can be blurting out things and it can be like that. But meaningful sentences have to be formed by an intelligent person. These are all the objections, but all these objections have been answered very satisfactorily by Jaimini himself in his Purvamimamsa Shastra. Veda Apaurusheyatva Adhikarana. There is a section, Adhikarana, for establishing the impersonality of the Vedas by Jaimini, for establishing the eternity of the Vedas. He has done a wonderful way. He has established how the Vedas are self-valid and how they are impersonal, how they are eternal, all those things. They are discussed by various acharyas. All the Vedantic systems accept this. Veda is Apaurushaya. Some of the other systems also accept, like Sankhyas, for example, they also accept Apaurushaya of Vedas. Some of them may not accept, like Nayayikas and all that. So, this is actually how the Vedantis accept. It is formed in the form of words and sentences which are meaningful. They teach us things which are supersensory. The order of words has remained same forever. This is what it says. It is eternally coming like that. Anupurvi Nityatva, it is called. So if the word is changed, it will not be Veda anymore. Ishetvorjetva bhajavasto bhajavasta devo vasavita prarpayatu. When we say Ishetva, Urjetva, Deva, Vayavastha, Upayavastha, like that, if you say Tvav, Ishe, Tvav, Urje, it will not be Veda anymore. It has to be told in the same order. The words have to be repeated in the same order. Kramanityatva, it's called. There is no proof to say that the order of the words was changed at any point of time. There is no proof to say that, to prove that. And if you look at the works of masters who have written thousands and thousands of years ago, like Jaimini or Panini or Patanjali or Shabaraswami or Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, they all use Vedic sentences, Vedic mantras. Even today, we are telling those mantras we are learning in the same order, in the same way. There is no difference at all. For thousands and thousands, forever it has remained like that, which we can also see because thousands of years ago, our acharyas, what they quote in their works, today we are learning in the same order, the same way. There is no change at all. So that is called the Anupurvi Nityatva of Vedas. This is a very important part of the nature of the Vedas. And that is how it has passed on from Guru to Shishya. Guru teaches this, and then the Shishyas learn the same order. And then further it is passed on like that in the same order. This is how it has been coming. The words and sentences remain in our minds in the form of knowledge. So these are all objections which are satisfactorily answered by Badarayana also, Jaimini also in their sutras. When there is pralaya, what happens? Everything gets dissolved. How can Veda be existing? How can be in the same order? All these questions are all answered. That's a very huge topic by itself. But the Vedic words remain in the mind in the form of knowledge. It will be there in our minds. And the words and their meanings are naturally and eternally associated. This is another very important aspect of the Vedas. How do we understand the meaning of a word? Did somebody say, create an object and then give a name to it? Like today we do what is known as Namakarana. A child is born and then it is given a name. And then we say that this child's name is this and the name is denoting that particular child. But in the Vedic words, which were eternally there, how to know, understand the meaning? Has somebody said, created the connection between those words and the meanings? How can it be there like that? The answer to that is the meaning is in the word itself. There is no need for anybody to associate an object with a word. The meaning is in the word itself, conveys the meaning. The Vedic words especially. And the later on words have emerged from the Vedic words only because they are the basic source. So this is established by Jaimini itself in a sutra called Autpattika Sutra. Autpattikastu shabdasya arthena sambandhaha. Shabda and artha, the word and the meaning, are naturally associated, he says. These are all discussed in great detail, but I am just giving a very brief intro into that here because this is just an introductory course, basically. But these are all huge subjects and extremely interesting subjects to study for us to understand and things like that. So I'm just giving you an idea about this. The words and meanings are naturally and eternally associated. And the words are expressed through sound. Here we express the words through sound. The sound is a quality of the element. So Nayayika say, Shabda Gunakaha Akashaha, space. It is the sound, is the quality of space, they say. So it is something when I pronounce a word, it is pronounced and it dies down. The previous sentence which I had told is now not existing. It has already gone. So how can you say it is eternal? All these questions are there. This is an elemental sound which is not eternal, but the knowledge is eternal. The word exists in the mind, whereas the expression through the elemental sound may be created and it will die down. But the word itself will remain as knowledge. Vedic knowledge is the most wonderful aspect of the Vedas. To study the nature of the Vedas itself is most wonderful. To understand the nature of the Vedas. So here I am just giving you a few aspects connected with the Veda. And then the Vedangas, how they help to understand the Vedas. The accessories to the Veda. An anga is that which helps the main, upakaraka, is told. It does some upakara. And that which helps in understanding the nature of another is also known as anga. It need not be very much a part of that. It is not a part of Veda. Angas are not part of the Veda. They are separate works created later by various acharyas. In order to, because Vedas were already existing, to understand the Vedas, They created accessories for us to understand the Vedas. And they are because they are most difficult to comprehend. Without the help of the Angas, we cannot understand and put to practice the Vedic rituals and whatever is taught in the Vedas in a prescribed way. And there are six Angas, as I told you. We will touch upon briefly each Anga, what it contains. The first one is called Shiksha. The name of the Anga is called Shiksha. Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha, like that. So this is in Taittiriya Upanishad. It says Shiksham Vyakhya Syamaha Varnasvara Matra Balam Samasantanaha. It starts like that. Varna, Swara, Sama, Santana, Matra, Bala. These are all the various aspects of the Vedic mantras that we have to understand how to pronounce the Vedas without any mistake. That itself brings out the power of the Vedas. If it is pronounced in the wrong way, it will not give you the benefit. It may even cause some difficulty. So there should be no mistakes in the swaras and varnas. Meaning of the words change if they are changed. The swara of the Veda changes, then the meaning also changes. The letters, every letter has got association with a swara. That, like I, U, R, A, I, O, these are all called swaras. So in a letter like ka, k plus a, the swara is the a actually. That part of it only has got the swara. So the swaras have to be known by somebody is very important because there are Panini understood that from the Vedas, when we change the swaras, the meaning changes. So in his work, Vyakarana, called Ashtadhyayi, he defines sutras to establish the swaras of the Vedic mantras, Vedic words and all that. How should be the swara? If the swara changes, what happens? How the meaning changes? All these things are established. So that accessory which helps us to understand the swaras, the varnas, etc., the letters, that is called shiksha. So it is said that mantro hinaha swarataha varnato va mithya prayuktaha natamarthamaha. Swara and varna, if they are not proper, the letters are not pronounced properly, the swaras are not pronounced properly, it will not give you that meaning. And it can actually cause great harm to the person who is reciting those mantras. And there is an example, famous example given, Indra Shatruhu Swarato Paradhat. So in order to kill Indra, there is a ritual that is performed to create, and then a demon who will actually create Indra. But the swara changed, and Indra actually killed him instead of he killing Indra because of the change in swara. The meaning changed. So the demon who was created out of the ritual was supposed to kill Indra, but because of the swara changed, it gave him such a meaning that the person who is created will be killed by Indra. That meaning changed totally by changing the swara. So that is a very famous example that is told by Sayanacharya in his commentary of the Yajurveda introduction. He tells all these things. So there is a these are all just examples to show that why the importance of the swara. And the swaras are basically three swaras are there: Udatta, Anudatta, and Swarita. They are called. So depending on where the letters are created in our throat, there are various parts within our mouth, and then letters are created from various parts inside the mouth, and they are all defined in Vyakarana. Akuha Visarjaniyanam, Kantaha, Ichueshanam, Talu, like that. The various parts inside, the letters are all created in different parts. So those which are created from the upper parts are called Udatta, lower one Anudatta, like that. Uchai Udattaha, Nichai Anudattaha. Like this, all these sutras are established to say which should be Udatta, which should be Anudatta, how it should be pronounced. When they actually write the Vedic mantra, they are denoted by a vertical line on the top and then a horizontal line at the bottom of the letter which says Anudatta. A vertical line on top says it is Svarita. There is no mark at all. It is called Udatta. Like this, there is a notation developed later on in order to mark so that people don't make mistakes while pronouncing the Vedic mantras. And there is also what is known as Hrasva, Dirgha, Pluta, the time duration. Ka, like that. The time duration taken to pronounce letters. These are all defined in the Shiksha Shastra. There are various granthas, Paniniya Shiksha. There is a work called Paniniya Shiksha. He explains in great detail all these things. Like that, Bala, Prayatna, Sthana, Alpa Prana, Mahaprana, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, like that. Sama, pronounced melodiously. The Vedic mantras are supposed to be pronounced very melodiously. It should not be harsh to listen. And then without break in between. All these things are explained in Paniniya Shiksha, Pratishakya, and these kind of works. So there is an accessory called Shiksha to the Vedas, which explains about the swaras, the varna, how to pronounce, and all those things. These rules are all defined here. So this is one accessory to understand the Vedas and to use them in a proper way. So we are just getting a brief into all these things. Okay, we are not going into details of this because they are all big subjects, huge topics. Each one is. And then there is Vyakarana grammar, which is well known. Everybody should be familiar with this. There is a work called Ashtadhyayi, written by Panini Maharshi, and there is also a Vartika for that by Katyayana, and there is a what is known as Mahabhashya by Patanjali. Further commentaries came to explain that, all that. So it has basically, Vyakarana has 5 uses, which is told by Saranacharya in the introduction of Yajurveda, Raksha, Vuha, Gama, Laghu, Asandeha, like that. To protect the Vedic mantras, the Vyakarana Grantha, like grammar, the grammar work, Ashtadhyayi written by Panini, he did not create it by himself. He saw how the Sanskrit language was used by people in the world and how Sanskrit words are used in the Vedas. And he saw all of them and he condensed the usage of all these words into a set of rules so that by using these rules, you can derive any word like that. But there are many difficulties in Vedas because Vedas, there is no specific rule everywhere. Many places the rules are all not followed as per the Panini's Ashtadhyayi because Vedas are beyond Ashtadhyayi. So Panini gives provision for all those rules. He says in Veda, this can be found in different ways. He says, Chandasi Bahulam, there is one sutra which appears in many places. He says in Chandas, in Vedas, this is not actually the form of the word. It can be used in different words, different ways. It can be found in Chandas, in the Vedas. So it is beyond Vyakarana Shastra, but largely follows the Vyakarana Shastra. So there is a separate section written by Panini to explain some of the Vedic words, swaras, and all those things. So it's a very, one of the most wonderful works in the world, as accepted by even Western scholars and everyone. Everybody accepts that Panini's Ashtadhyayi is one of the most wonderful works ever created by humans. Such a wonderful work it is. So one of the uses of the Vyakarana is to protect the Veda mantras so that they are used properly to understand meanings. Largely we can understand. Some of them he gives provision in the sutra itself how to understand the Vedic words. And then Vuha means we can infer based on Vyakarana, we can infer some of the mantras based on their application, gender, case, and all that. And Veda itself ordains that one should learn Vyakarana. There is a story in Veda itself where Devatas went to Indra and say, please explain the derivation of these words, we want to understand. all these things. Vyakuru, they asked. So I believe, Veda says, he took 1,000 Devamana years, 1,000 Devas years. That is, our 1 year is 1 day for the Devatas. Like that, 1,000 years, but still he could not explain the derivation of all the words in the Veda. So later on, it was condensed because he started every word to derive. Later on, there was condensed, like the Laghu Upaya. That is, it is a simplicity. It was simplified. How it was simplified? There was Pullinga words are there. Krishna is Akaranta Pullinga Shabdaha. If you understand the derivation of Krishna, you can understand derivation of all the Akaranta Pullinga Shabdas. Ramaha, Krishna, Srinivasa, Venkatesa, whatever Pullinga words are there. All of them you can understand by understanding derivation of one word, Akaranta Pullinga Shabda. Like that. Like that, it was condensed in the Vyakarana Grantha by Panini. So he was able to give a very wonderful structure to the grammar. So millions of words can be understood by few aphorisms. Asandehaha, without any doubt, you have to understand meaning. Some of them, how to actually split the words, how to understand the words. It becomes very difficult to understand in the Vedas. And if the Vedic mantras are not followed properly, then one will not get benefit as told in the Vedas. So one has to follow to the letter what is taught in the Vedas. For that, one has to understand what is taught first. Without the help of grammar, you cannot understand that, without any doubt. So, some places you can give multiple meanings to words, multiple way you can derive. So, how to actually know that? That is where Vyakarana helps us. So, this is another important accessory to the Vedas, the grammar. Then the third one is Chandas. This is Akshara Parimanam. Yadakshara Parimanam Tatu Chandaha is the definition of Chandas, count of letters in the Vedic mantras. There are various Chandas, Gayatri, Trishtupa, Anushtupa, Jagati. These are all names of Chandas. It tells how many letters are there in the mantra. So based on that, it has to be used in that way only. So Veda itself says that one has to know the Rishi who actually perceived the mantra through his meditation. The truths were realized by the Rishis. And then the chandas of that mantra, the devata for that mantra, all these have to be known to get the specified benefit. Else it could cause harm also. So these are all specified to be known. And Pingalacharya is the Acharya, has written the sutras, Chandas sutras. And he defines all the chandas and all those things with examples and all that. And Veda mantras all follow chandas. Many types of chandas are found in the Veda. But this is another accessory for using the Veda mantras in the proper way, with proper understanding. If we change the chandas of the mantras, then it will become different. The meaning will be different. It will no longer give you the benefit. It can also cause harm. So it is very important. Another very important accessory of Veda is called Nirukta. Nishkrishta Mukti, it's called. Niruktihi means Nishkrishta Muktihi means very specifically, very clearly, some of the words are explained in this word, how to understand the word, meaning of the word, based on the root, based on a part of the word, based on a particular letter in the word. Vedic mantras are so difficult to understand Vedic words. Simply, Vyakarana alone cannot help us to understand the meaning of all the words. So in the mantras, it is all very highly codified form. Sometimes you will have to understand the meaning of a word based on the root, sometimes based on a part of the word, sometimes based on a letter in the word, and things like that. So they are all explained in the work called Nirukta, which is a wonderful work by Yaskacharya. And Nirukta is supposed to be, there was one commentary which was called Nighantu, one work called Nighantu, which is a collection of words of the Veda. And Yaskacharya explained the meanings from the Nighantu. It is like a dictionary, collection of Vedic words. And Yaskacharya wrote a commentary on this. And that is called Nirukta, how to understand the meanings of some of the Vedic words, which are very, very difficult to understand. And they give us also the Nirukta also gives us useful information about the Devatas and their form and their things like that. And meanings of the words as per a lot of ways in which meanings has to be derived, not necessarily only through the grammatical rules. Grammatical rules may not help us in understanding the meaning of many words in the Vedas. There are thousands and thousands of words like that, which cannot be understood simply by applying the grammatical rules. So they have to be explained, understood in different ways. They are all explained in the Nirukta Grantha. And then the Jyotisha tells about is about astrology. It is about year, month, nakshatra, and things like that. When to perform certain yajnas, yagas, and all those things. There are specific times where you have to perform. All those things are told in the Jyotisha. Lagadha is the Acharya who wrote Vedanga Jyotisha work. So the solar cycle, lunar cycle, seasons are all actually calculated, very accurately calculated, decided for the various Vedic sacrifices and all that. And even a day has been divided into several parts. Specific times of the day are told as auspicious and all those things. They are all defined in the Vedanga Jyotisha, which is also an accessory. And then the Kalpa is the last accessory. It's a very important accessory also. There are 4 types of sutras, Kalpa Sutras, Shrauta Sutras, which explain about yaga and other karmas. They are about perform. Kalpa means performance, doing. So Grihya Sutras, samskaras such as marriage and all that, Shodasha samskaras are very famous. Dharma Sutras about Varnashrama dharmas, Shulba Sutras, how to create a Vedic altar for various yajna, yagas and all that. These are all told in the accessory called Kalpa. So these are all the 6 accessories of Veda: Shiksha, Vyakarana, Chandas, Nirukta, Jyotisha, and Kalpa, which are extremely useful to understand the Vedic mantras, the meaning of the Vedic mantras. And without the help of these, it's very difficult, impossible to understand. So why we are talking about these things here is, it's generally we have to understand that before going into the Vedanta, the Brahma Sutras are the primary things that we have to deal with finally. Before that, how our acharyas have tried to understand through the accessories, and they have studied the Vedas, they have studied the Angas, they have studied everything, and then understood the Vedic words, the message of the Vedas, and then condensed them in their commentaries, explained them in a wonderful way, and established a system of philosophy. So for that, we have to understand the complexity that is involved, how they have actually understood and taken care of all these, how much they have studied and how much effort they have put and given us all these wonderful works, which we have to understand, preserve, and then pass it on to posterity. So from that point of view, these also we have to get an idea about these things in the introductory part of it. So this will go and continue for one more. We have the 14 Vidyasthanas remaining, Mimamsa, Nyaya, Purana, Dharma Shastra and all that. Then the Ashtapanchakas and the meaning of the word Vedanta, Pramanas and all that we are going to study in the next session as the last part probably of the introductory part. So with that, today I will conclude today's session with that, offering my pranams to all of you for having participated in this class, and hope it was useful and it was clear. And any questions, anything, because I'll keep the class open now. Please unmute yourself and speak one by one so that you can have any question. I have kept the recording on so that it cannot be useful. It can also be useful for others. Thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಗುರುಗಳೇ. ಮುರಳೀಧರ್ ಚಕ್ರವರ್ತಿ ಹಿಯರ್.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
ಈ ಮೇನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡೆ. ರಿಯಲಿ ಸರ್, ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್. ನಾಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಶಿಂಗ್. ಗುರುಗಳನ್ನ ನಾ ಪಾಲಿಶ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಶಕ್ತಿ ನನಗಿದೆಯೇ? ಗುರುಗಳನ್ನ ಹೊಗಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ತುಂಬಾ ತುಂಬಾ ಆಕರ್ಷಕವಾಗಿ ಮೂಡಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಮೈನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈ ವಯಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು 1 ಗಂಟೆ ಕಾಲ ವಿತೌಟ್ ಎ ಪಾಸ್ without a break for a second you speak. That God's greatest grace, sir. I pray to God to keep
Thank
you
you.
like that healthy for up to 100, beyond 100. I pray to God.
Thank you. I'm looking for more questions and please, yeah.
Uh,
If there are any
Swami,
questions,
Adiyan, what is Brahmana and Aranyaka in that?
yeah, actually, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishads, all three are combined together and called Brahmanas also. But within that, there is a notional breakup. And then in Taittiriya, if you see, for example, Brahmana, there are 28 prashnas in the Brahmana. Aranyaka starts from Arula Prashna, Bhadrankarne Vishnu Yamadeva. That is the first. There are six prashnas in Aranyaka. And then the Upanishads are there. So Brahmana Upanishads are part of the Vedic, a part of the Veda itself, where there is a notional difference. Brahmana part actually tells how to do prayoga, how to
Hmm.
actually, they explain the mantras, how to perform the yagas and karmas and all those things.
Hmm.
Aranyakas are actually going towards Upanishad. They also teach us a lot of philosophy, about philosophy and all that. Like Purusha Sukta comes in the Aranyaka itself,
Okay.
actually. And it also ordains how to do Brahma Yajna and Panchamaha Yajnas and all those things, which are daily and necessary duties that one has to perform. So Aranyaka gives all these things. And it also ordains us to study the Vedas.
Hmm.
Swadhyayo Adhyetavyaha. That vidhi is
Hmm.
found in Aranyaka, second Prashna. So
Hmm.
Aranyaka has a lot of such things. It is basically a notional break in the Vedas.
Okay. So
I
the
mean,
Shikshavali, Taittiriya
Eden,
Upanishad are
Somen,
all Aranyakas only. They are
Somen,
not Brahmanas. Sorry, sorry.
So Aranyaka is a name which is given because the mantra itself says that it has to be studied in the forest, in the Aranya.
Okay.
Okay, so they were studying like that earlier, but now we study everywhere. So it is, the name is, that is why it has got a name Aranyaka, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Swamin,
Ah,
Vijayaraghavan,
tell me.
Chakravarti. In many places, I see that, for example, in the Daya Shatakam,
Hmm.
Trivedi Sarvayogyata. I mean,
Hmm.
they only refer to the three Vedas.
Correct.
So how come
So
the Atharvana
initially,
Veda?
Vedas are well
Uh,
known as Vedas, Trayas, Trayi is also a definition. Three Vedas were there, is told initially. Whether Atharva Veda is also a Veda, it's part of that or not. Primarily, three Vedas were more popular, probably. Atharva Veda, some people say it was added later, or it is not a Veda at all. That is not true. It is also very much part of the Veda itself, and it has got various other mantras because these three are mainly used in most of the rituals: Rigveda, Ajurveda, and Samaveda. Atharva Veda has some independent rituals which are there. And one who has studied Atharva Veda is actually called the Brahma. In four Ritviks are there in Yajnas. Hotru and Udgatru, Advaryu and Brahma. The Brahma has to be a very important part of the very important Ritvik. He has to know all the four Vedas. One who has studied Atharva Veda can only be Brahma, they say, because Atharva Veda is so difficult. Any doubts in the other three or performance of the karma, if there are any mistakes or anything, something not done, Brahma has to give clarification for all that. So he also protects the other yagas and all that. So Atharva Veda is very much part of it, but many places it is told mainly Yajurveda, Rigveda, Yajurveda, and Samaveda. Atharva Veda is not told like that, but it is also included, and in the Veda itself it says Atharva Veda is also mentioned in many places in the Veda itself. Like in Chandogya Upanishad, for example, in the Bhuma Vidya, Sanat Kumara asks Narada what I have studied. He says Rigveda, Yajurveda, Ajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. He mentions that also. So Atharva Veda is also mentioned in Aranyaka also. Taittiriya Aranyaka it is mentioned, Atharva Veda. So there are many places it is told. But popularly these three were mainly used for many of the rituals. These three mantras are primarily used. Atharva Veda has some very independent yajna, agadi, and karmas and other karmas and all those things. The abhicharika karmas and all those things are there. So That is the one justification we can say. But Atharva Veda is very much part of the Veda itself.
Swami, did any Vaishnavacharya write a commentary on Vedas?
Huh?
Did any Vaishnavacharya write commentary on Vedas?
Any Vaishnava Acharya?
Yes.
No, except Sayanacharya and Bhaskaracharya, others later on not written. Vaishnavacharya has not written. Madhvacharya has written Rigbhashya, and then Aurobindo has written and all that. But our Vaishnavacharyas have not written commentary on the Vedas as such. But Bhattabhaskara Bhashya is probably closer to our Vishistadvaitic explanations of the Vedic mantras.
Okay, Acharya ji, I have a...
Guruji,
Yeah.
Muralidhar Chakravarti here, Guruji.
Tell me, sir.
One doubt, sir. Now, for example, sir, we all practice one particular branch of Vedas only. All will not study all the. For example, in our Abhibhadanam, we say Yajushakat Dhyayi. We say.
Correct.
Say for example, sir, in Sri Suktam comes under Rigveda. So we say we practice a particular branch of Vedas. Still, we chant the mantras of other Vedas also. What do you opine about this, sir?
So Sri Sukta is also, it is supposed to be Akhila Bhaga and all those things. But parts of the Sri Sukta mantras also come in Yajurveda also. And there are that part of it is there in Yajurveda also. And so Swadhyayodhyetavyaha, when we say it is the Swashakhe, what Shakhe we belong to, we study that. So all the mantras which come that, it's primarily it is used. Apart from that, some other additional things are also learned based on their usage and popularity and how for performing certain homas and other things like that. So like Panchasuktas, Panchashanti, Panchasukta and all those things. Some of the Shanti mantras are also belonging to specific Upanishads, for example. So that also we study Panchashanti belong to other Upanishads also we study. So these are all basically based on the usage and their usefulness and in popular karmas that are
I'll talk here.
like that.
I mean, so the
Acharya ji,
suktas are a part of Purva Mimamsa then, is it?
Whose sutras is it?
The suktas, the Purusha Sukta, Sri Sukta.
Purusha Sukta is part of the Aranyaka. It is Purusha Sukta is found in all Vedas. In Taittiriya Upanishad, it's found in Aranyaka part of it.
Okay.
Rigveda also.
Acharya ji,
Thank you, sir.
Acharya ji, I have a question regarding
Please, sir.
Swaras.
Tell me, sir.
I'm Kuldeep from Chandigarh.
Yeah, I know. Tell me, sir. Tell me, sir.
No, for the benefit of others, I'm just saying that.
Yes,
All right. See, you said Udatta is without any
Marking is
any
done
marking,
like that.
and Anudatta is underlined thing, and Swarita is the vertical
Single
line.
line, vertical line.
Okay. Now, in many books I have read, they say Udatta is the line on top. In one way, that makes sense because it's on top, and Anudatta is that which has no marking is called Swarita, according to many. Now, what I want to ask you is, see, if Udatta is without any marking, then the problem is majority of the mantra is without marking. Then we have to read everything in Udatta. So, could you clarify this?
When we study, when we read the words of the Veda, when we are pronouncing, it looks like everything is Udatta, but in every word, there can be only one Udatta. All others are Anudatta. Anudattam padam ekavarjam is a sutra. Anudattam padam ekavarjam. But what happens when we do Samhite, the swaras change. So the swaras change when we combine two words. So all the swaras after following a swarita, they become Anudatta. But they are not marked as Anudatta, all of them. Only the last one is marked and the remaining are left like that. So they are not Udattas actually. In every word, there can be only one Udatta in a word. All remaining
that makes sense now, because otherwise majority of the letters would be Udatta.
It's not true. When you break the words, when you do the Padapatha, we will understand clearly. When you see the Padapatha of the Vedas, there it will become very clear.
Okay, sir. Dhanyavad. Dhanyawad.
Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful explanation.
Namaskaram, Swami.
And somebody has asked one question, 1 minute, which I wanted to see. Vedangas are not Apaurishaya. Whether Vedangas are Apaurishaya? No. They are all created by rishis. So Vedangas are not Apaurishaya. Only Vedas are Apaurishaya.
Mahodaya, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I have a question. In the beginning, you explained that the Vedas are impersonal as per tradition, and three of our acharyas said, confirmed this. It is Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhava. I did not
Yes,
hear the third.
Madhvacharya. Yes,
Madhvacharya.
Madhvacharya.
Okay.
Yeah. There are the
Okay, thank you.
three popular systems of Vedanta which are found today. Probably all others are, we can say, offshoots of that in a way.
Namaskar, Swami, again.
Adiya.
Swami, you have mentioned that the Veda structure generally contains Karmakanda and Jnanakanda, and Karmakanda has Samhita, Brahmana, and Aranyaka. Then the Upanishads
Yeah,
are there.
correct.
Is this structure same for all the four Vedas, or how is the classification of the four Vedas made? Because you said that the Purusha Suktam is present in all Vedas, although we generally recite the Purusha Suktam from Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda only. How is it that one Suktam is present in all the four Vedas?
This is a good question. This is basically in the Yajurveda because it's to do with Advaryu Veda. It's called Prayoga for performance of the karmas. That is where it is. This division is seen in Rig Veda. If you see, it's based on the kandas. There are 10 kandas, depending on which rishi has done sakshatkara of those mantras. It's called Vasishtha Kanda and things like that. So there are 10 kandas in Rig Veda. So they are different. Basically, ring mantras only are used in everywhere. Okay, in Samaveda also, the Richi Adyudham Sama, it is said. So the ring mantras are sung in Samaveda. There could be some additional mantras also there. In the Yajurveda also, basically, a lot of ring mantras are seen in the Yajurveda also. It has got prose as well as mantras in both. So this division is primarily seen in Yajurveda, like you said. That is correct because it is the prayoga that is the main used for performance done by the Advaryu, basically one of the Ritvik. The Rig Veda has only mantras for ahvana of devatas, for welcoming them and for inviting them to karmas and things like that. So that way, that division of even in the Rig Veda, that way Rig Samhita is there, Rig Veda Samhita, like that division can be seen. But Aranyaka and all probably is not there.
Okay, Swami, then you speak.
Yeah. Mantra and Brahmana are supposed to be the two parts actually.
Okay.
Shatapada Brahmana, like that, like that is there. Aitareya Brahmana, it is a part of the Rig Veda. So there also, if you see, Brahmana is there, and Sukta, the Samhitas are there, Rig Samhita. Aitareya Brahmana is there, which is a part of the Rig Veda, like that.
Namaskaram,
Swami,
Swami.
Namaskar.
Is there any particular reason that fewer Samvedins are to be found in the country as compared to Rigvedans and Yajurvedans?
I don't think there are Samvedis, but it is generally found to be rare. Yes, maybe it depends on how it was passed on and which areas Samvedis were there and how it was passed on to Shishyas. Probably over a period of time like that, if you see, many things are lost, many shakhas are lost, many branches are no more existing today. We can't see any student of a particular several branches like that. So it is difficult to say why it happened. It over a period of time. It has happened. That's all.
Thank you, Swami.
Swami, again, one
Swami,
question. This Neela
who
Suktam
is
Mandal, is it part of Vedas, considered as part of Vedas, is it? Or is it something introduced later, Neela Suktam Mandal?
Nila Sukta Mandala. They are also
Yeah.
found even in Yajurveda it is found.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it? It is there. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Again.
Again, Swami, I have a question. In Upanishads, there are discussions between the teacher and the student. So
Hmm.
how do we understand this to be an Apaurusheya?
Yeah, that is, these are all, this is again a question that is answered by Gemini himself. So there is what is known as Pravaha Nityatva. So basically the rishis and devatas are all supposed to be positions. Okay, they are all the same, not the same person, like chief minister, minister, and all that. There is a chief minister all the time, but the person changes. So the people who occupy those positions are different. They are called Pravaha Nitya. So like that problem is resolved with that kind of an understanding that there are sentient beings who do tapas and attain that position that time. And again, after 100 years of that person, maybe that person will go, one more person will come into that position. So there is always a Bhrigu, there is always a Varuni, there is always a Bhrigurvaiva, Runihi, Varuna will be there, Bhrigu will also be there. There is a Bhrigu always, there is a Varuna always, but it may not be the same person. Persons may change, but the Rishi position will be there always. So these mantras are always valid. That is how it is told. Even Indra, Vasishta, they are all like that. They are all supposed to be positions. They are all Pravaha Nitya. This is how it is explained in the Brahma Sutra by Badarayana. Three Brahma Sutras are there, for which all three acharyas accept most of the things. They are very similar. In fact, I have written an article comparing these three sutras of Badarayana establishing the eternity and impersonality of Vedas, an article on comparative study of the three acharyas. I can probably share it here if some people are interested, but it will be little more detailed, it will be more technical, and one has to have an understanding of the Brahma Sutras to understand the article. But somebody is interested, I can share it.
Thanks, Swami. In fact, we would like to see that document.
Okay, I can share the article. It was published by Karnataka Sanskrit University, in fact, so I will share it. If there are no more questions, I'll conclude the session. Thank you very much. Shri Krishna.